Do you want to start? Okay, so we're going to start. Okay, I'm an MC. I don't think I'm going to be in the camera. No, it's okay. It's just the camera is too close, and I don't want to be in front of the. No, because I'm just introducing. Okay. So yeah, and then I'm going to disappear. Well, I'm going to disappear in that chair. Actually. So. Okay, so we have a full house. That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks, Elaine, for organizing this, and the Red Hat Gallery for hosting us. I am a member of the ArtSci Salon. I'm actually the artistic director of the ArtSci Salon, which is a collective/organization that is gathering normally at the Fields Institute, which is an institution for the study of interdisciplinary mathematics. But we are taking over the place to do collaboration at the intersection of art, science, and technology. And this exhibition, well, Elaine is part of our collective, and this exhibition is totally up our alley because art, science, and technology is at best collected in or gathered or like getting together in science fiction and in thinking about future worlds. And congratulations on this amazing exhibition. Actually, I saw like so many themes that were around that were circulating like while I was at the opening event, and I'm very curious to hear what the artist will have to say about it. So I'm going to let Elaine introduce the artist, but before we actually start, this is also, this event, as you see, is being recorded and is also part of the laser encounters. The laser is transnational organization. It's based in the States, but it has more than 50 different nodes around the world in different cities, and we have similar collectives that are doing collaboration at the intersection of art and science that are actually doing event. So I should also say that the main organization of the laser event is Nina Tsegledi, who is not here today, but hopefully she will be around at some point. Okay, so I will, without further ado, I will pass the mic to Elaine. Did I forget anything? No. Okay, so I'm asking the artist to use this one to talk so that it's being recorded in the audio. Thank you. It's very DIY.
I think I'll stand because my voice is quite quiet usually. Thank you for all coming. What a wonderful crowd. This is really amazing. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out on a Saturday afternoon. And this show has come about through many, many different ways. It came about specifically because Matt Borat, who couldn't be here with us today, unfortunately, and I did an original video for Redhead in 2021 as part of, during the pandemic, which never got shown. It was only online. And so we decided, when I was thinking about what I was going to do for this show, I decided that I wanted to show the video, and I didn't also want to be alone. So I asked 10 friends to join me for collaborations and for curations and commissions. So what you're seeing in front of you is a show that is under the title of Cum Grano Salis. Cum Grano Salis, if you don't know, is an idiom that means to take something with a grain of salt. So the exhibition is looking at things that could be doubtful, things you could be skeptical about, but basically that you use your facilities to question. So looking at when you come into the gallery, you are actually, in this show, walking into a visual story. This is a story of 3 galaxies. 2 are fictional, and 1 is our Milky Way galaxy. And the Milky Way galaxy is represented by 7 artists, which are these 3 pieces here and these 4 pieces on this wall here. The theme I commissioned, curated with these wonderful artists, the pieces had to fit the theme of the show, and the theme, besides being questionable, was also about climate change as seen in science fiction. Science fiction, literary novels, and cinema, movies, whatever was their choice. I gave them specific parameters as to what that they should be in the round. It should be a tondo, and that it had to have predominantly blue and be a certain size. And from there, it was open to how they wanted to interpret it. But the main thing for them was I did want to know what their references were for in science fiction. And you can see that on the artist statement that is under each of the pieces. The other thing that's part of the show is, of course, the other 3 main the other 2 galaxies, which are fictional. And those are collaborations. That's the video that I did with Matt Borat, which is the Aquion galaxy. This galaxy has going through a climate crisis as well. It has it's polar. Its polar caps have melted and have washed the full oceans with fresh water, and there's no salt water left. And it needed to replenish the salt water. So a salt terminal was erected in the cityscape that we came up with. And where the salt water came for that is from another collaboration, which is this back wall here, which is the NaCl galaxy. The NaCl galaxy, again, fictional. Maybe it's out there, we don't know. Could be, is a salt galaxy. NaCl, meaning, for the chemistry folks here, Na for sodium, Cl for chlorine. Together, that makes salt, especially if you have 7 chlorine planets and 1 drama queen in the middle, the sodium. So it's, when you've got those 7, you have an ionic bond and you have salt. So the salt galaxy is rich in resources, and because it is female-led, non-binary, egalitarian, and feminist, it lends and supports and cares for other galaxies around it that are in trouble and going through climate crises. And those are, as we know, our galaxy, the Milky Way, and the Aquion galaxy, which is needing salt. So it lends salt to the Aquion. It transports it with care and with love to that galaxy so that it can replenish, and it can replenish its organisms as well, because they are also genetic experts. They are well-versed in genetic modifications that are ethical, which is primarily looking at bioluminescence. And bioluminescence, which is a gene that is inserted into organisms that cast their own light, which can also futuristically possibly become a source of alternative energy. And that's what the genetic table over there is, and that's a collaboration with Teri, Donovan, and the collaboration with the NAC galaxy is with Tracy Gorman, who is a textile artist, and Teri is a painter. And so these galaxies all are part of this one story. So where was I going to go with this? I know it feels a little complicated, but it's really not. It came together in a very organic way. It did start with the video, and then as I started collaborating with these wonderful artists, I started realizing everything was connected. I did want to mention a little bit on the science side, and first I'll say about ekphrastic, not sure if you know the term. Ekphrastic is that it's an art form responding to another art form. Everything in here is responding to either literary or cinema. So we are looking at art responding to another art form, which is, and it has an ekphrastic composition in that sense. And the other thing is with the science, which I've mentioned part of it is the NaCl, but it's also the idea of light, it's the idea of climate change, biodiversity, and when the wonderful artists get up to talk about their works on these pieces, you'll hear more about the biodiversity and the climate change issues and crises that they were dealing with in coming up with these works as well. And for biographies for everybody, I'm not going to read biographies for everybody on the stage at this point. They are in the back binder back there with their photo on the wall there. And Matt Borat wonderfully we decided that together that let's make everyone a science fiction character ourselves. And that is how those came about that you see our photographs. So enjoy that when you get a chance. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. And we're going to go through everybody's work pretty quickly, and then we'll ask for questions. So I'm going to pass it over to my collaborator, Tracy.
Thank you. I guess I'll stand as well. Thank you all for coming. This is amazing. Thank you, Elaine, for inviting me to collaborate on this piece. Yeah, so as Elaine said, this is the NaCl galaxy. So when we were talking about it, we kind of went into some of the basic chemistry of the molecular structure of NaCl, and I was trying to figure out how we got the 1 and the 7 this morning. I was going through my Google searches, and it's the valence electrons. So there's 1 valence electron on the sodium, and then there's 7 on the chlorine. And that's how we came up with the number of planets for our galaxy. And then we went into the properties of the elements, sodium being kind of soft silver white metal, and chlorine being a gaseous yellow-green in its physical form. And then we got busy and started collecting all of our greens and some blues. And we explored creating the planets using different textile techniques. So there's different types of quilting, there's beading, there's embroidery, macrame, knitting, knotting, hand sewing, other freeform textile manipulations. And we came up with a galaxy that I think is fairly cohesive, but everyone's a little bit different on its own. Oh, and I wanted to mention as well, it being a sort of a feminine or feminist galaxy, one of the special things is there's this part of one of Elaine's mother's skirts in one of the planets to make it extra special. And that's my synopsis of our galaxy. Questions later if you like.
Teri Donovan now?
Oh, okay. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Elaine, for inviting me to be part of this. This has been an extraordinary experience. My work is the 2 pieces beside the large blue planet in the middle, or galaxy, or whatever it is. I normally work quite representationally, and my work I base it on a variety of references, photographic references, real life references. It could either be still life or figurative. But when Elaine asked me to do this, it opened up a whole new universe of possibilities. It meant I didn't have to make anything look real. It's all very futuristic. The planet's in terrible shape. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? We hope it will survive. But I thought, if we do survive, there's going to be a lot of science involved in that and in feeding us as we go forward, in preparing for different types of agriculture and so on. So I thought, well, maybe it'd be fun to just make up some plants. And, and of course, because they're in beakers and lab equipment containers, they have been invented by scientists in laboratories. So there's no reference for any of these futuristic plants. But it was really a lot of fun just to make them up out of nowhere. And I thought, this is really fun. Maybe I should do more of this. And working with Elaine on this installation and contributing the sort of amoeba-like shapes into the large blue circle was also really a lot of fun, meeting with Elaine at her studio and playing around with where things should go and how they would fit in with the total concept for this installation, and helping with moving the little animals around on the table. It was just terrific, and I can't thank Elaine enough for including me in this. It's just been a fantastic experience. Thank you. Who's going to be next? Heidi?
I think I'll just leave my notes. Lovely to see so many of you here. And I wanted to thank Elaine very much for inviting me to do this. I'm a fledgling artist, and so this is my first work in a gallery. Ooh. I'm sorry, I should say my name is Heidi Breier, in case anyone's wondering. So my piece is the shark over there. And I brought something else related to it, but it's not my first artwork. I normally work with making paper and teaching people to make recycled paper, and so I'm focusing on paper-based art. I was invited to an artist talk in September prior to this, to which Kaz, Teri, and Elaine were also invited. And I had also been invited to this show just before that, so I decided to use the earlier artist show as an opportunity to start prototyping and exploring what I might have in mind. And for a very long time, I have been taking pictures of roadkill. Yeah, I know, it sounds weird, but I also have a very strong passion for the environment, and it occurred to me that roadkill is a symbol for the harm that humans can do to nature without even thinking. So I've started collecting photos of roadkill, my own, and I wanted to start representing that in paper, and I came up with the idea of creating collage portraits. So this was the first portrait I did for the artist talk that I mentioned, and a pigeon. It was perfectly, beautifully lit, and it made a great subject for that. The background was, as you can see, round and blue, so it was hastily put together, but it was sort of a prototype for what would eventually be in this show. Then I wanted to make something out of, it's very important for me to try to use repurposed and recycled and upcycled materials as part of the whole passion for the environment. So the entire piece, other than the Mod Podge for the collage, is made of repurposed materials. The shark is a photocopy that was pasted onto cereal box card packaging, and it's mounted with corks from wine bottles, and the platter is papier-mâché. and then hundreds, if not thousands, of paper triangles from magazines. And the border is foil from Ferrero Rocher candy. And in making this piece, I was, with Elaine's brief for this show, I was thinking of particularly climate change. Didn't know at the outset what I would portray, but then I went to the ROM's shark exhibit, and coming out of that, it was immediately clear to me, oh, this fits perfectly. And I don't read a lot of science fiction or climate fiction, but one of the books I did read was about seeds that were, the whole politics around agriculture and seed production and genetics related to climate change and scarcity. And climate change is also having an effect on species like sharks, which are usually portrayed as threats and villains, and they just have a really bad rap. And the sharks exhibit was sort of upending that to some extent, which I thought was great. So I found a shark image and created the collage, what I call a collage mosaic. And the border, actually, it turned into, as I was creating the concept, it became a halo around the shark. So I've kind of upended the idea of the shark being a villain, and it's now sort of like a revered thing. It is dead, however. It was once of the sea, the salt water, and it is no longer. It is above it now. So those are some of the thoughts I had when I was creating this piece. Not all of them came at once, but by the end of it, I was really thrilled with what had come about. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ogino, and I want to thank Elaine. Of course, this is a magnificent experience for an artist and my fellow artists as well. It's amazing to be in a show with all you and having talked to you about your art. My piece is this piece over here. And it's called Three-Body Problem Saga. Now, if anybody has Netflix and is a bit of a science fiction buff, they'll know that the Three-Body Problem is a fairly recent series that has come out. This Three-Body is actually part of a trilogy, and Three-Body is the first book. The trilogy is called Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Now, in this piece, there are 4 pieces. There's actually a 4th book that is a fan book. So the trilogy became so famous internationally, and once it finished, of course, fans couldn't let it go, and so they started to write and do all kinds of art around it. One artist in particular, one writer in particular, did a bunch of blogs. His name was Basho. His pen name is Basho, and he put together, and they liked these blogs, and he was encouraged to put his blog into a book. So he consulted with the original author, who jumped all hands into it and helped him. He mentored with him on the 4th book, and out it came. So this is a trilogy of 4 books. This today is also National Poetry Day, and in the spirit of ekphrastic, I've written a poem about the Three-Body trilogy. Now, the 4 books are 1,654 pages long. And I'm an audio person. When I do my art, I listen to audiobooks. So the audiobooks is 75 hours long. Fortunately, my poem is 113 words. So, so it's called The Three-Body Problem Saga in 4 parts. Could I borrow you for a minute? Okay. Now, normally you're not allowed to touch work, but I'm going to give you full permission to touch work. And as I flip through, could you just hold that open? Or maybe the other way, because you're on that side. Yeah, just hold that open. So, in the beginning was the void. No time, no space, no ego. And the next one. That way. Okay, and just make sure this. Very good. Okay. And in book 1, fast forward 14 billion years. Our blue planet is in trouble. We are an eco-greedy and self-righteous mess. We reach out in the name of survival. A message to anyone who will listen. Help! Only to provoke the beast. Book 2 is called The Dark Forest. The Dark Forest is on. The Dark Forest hunt is on. Contact, attack, defend, clash, check. Book 3. Thank you. 400 years pass. We are at death's end. Crisis, deterrent, hunker down, pause, checkmate. Book 4, and this is the 4th book in the trilogy. But wait, our collapsed planet unfolds into universe 647. Is this the redemption of time, or simply another chapter of no time, no space, no ego? Thank you.
We'll just walk over to my artwork here. I join everyone else in thanking Elaine deeply and sincerely for the opportunity to work on this project. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I work with photography, mixed media, sculpture, installation, wood burning, image transfer, a lot of things. And my space reflects that. And maybe that's why there's so many things on this panel. But the whole premise of the project was a very interesting, different way for me to conceptualize work around. Normally, I build on personal experiences and emotional content and so on, and so this was very different coming at it from science fiction. Now, after starting work on this project, I started to realize I've listed 2 science fiction sources, Ursula K. Le Guin's The Word for World is Forest, and Robert Sawyer's Hominids trilogy. And they influence this in the sense that they both present cultures and civilizations that worked with the environment, with the ecosystems, as opposed to trying to dominate and destroy and so on, right? But I realized as I was developing this, and I was kind of world building here, is that I have a huge inventory of science fiction influences from my earliest childhood. Something I shared with my father was watching Star Trek every Saturday. And he was an engineer, so there was a lot of science in the house. So world building here, what we have, this is called After the Burn, Paradigm Shift, and the panel is charred wood. So we're looking at a segment of Earth here, and humans have been their deeply disappointing version of themselves and allowed the planet to burn. And so what's happening here is there's a network. I mean, you'll recognize the structure of the network as being like a beehive, and that's the first indication of some kind of new paradigm in that it's drawing from the bees and developing a network based on the hexagon. But these hexagons are very special. So you'll notice some of them house brains and human brains, and then there are other species here, not to scale, clearly. Yes, so the hexagons represent, the network represents a collaboration, a proper partnership between species. And I chose some of the animal species and the tree very deliberately because I feel like there's this world of untapped intelligence that we would benefit from. And so cephalopods and whales, elephants, and then I wanted to bring in other things that life that just represented very different things, so a spider and a lizard. I know lizards had their time, but they lasted longer than we might, right? So, I have tremendous respect for trees. That's a whole line of my work. But the different materials here you see are actually, in my imaginary world, new materials developed through the partnership of the species. And so we have the resins here, some of which even have a watery-like surface, some are full of bubbles. They're a material that is simultaneously a solid and a liquid. I don't know how that works, but and the reason for that material is to regenerate the water on the planet. And the whole hexagon structure is not manufactured in the sense that we think of now. It's actually growing. And so that's why there are baby hexagons here and there. And regeneration is starting to happen, hence the little bit of who doesn't like a little lawn care, right? So let's start with lawn. I don't know. So that's what that represents. And then the holographic material, which is often layered onto other materials, in my, again, imaginary world, is a special medium that allows for the storage and transfer of the energy generated by this partnership and required for the regenerative process. And maybe in future when the planet's all regenerated, I don't know, it looks like it could be a transporter. The brains, I must address the brains because why are there brains here? Humans finally, the few humans that were left finally realized the error of thousands of years of civilization, and they decide they need to disembody in order to allow the other species to physically be the dominant forces in the planet. And so they're still alive, but they're disembodied. But because they're part of this collective, they have enriched experiences that we wouldn't have without our bodies. Yeah, so I don't think I've really missed anything there. I think that about covers what I've... So for me, the experience was a combination of working with new materials. I'd never done resin pours before. I worked on that specifically for this project, and now I probably can't stop. So, expect to see more. I like to say I've entered my disco era here. And the other thing is the thinking when you have so many elements and so much chaos, it was really beneficial to have this really strong geometric structure to work around, and that sort of brings it all together, and it was joyful making it, so thank you, Elaine.
All right, I'm going to go over to my piece here. My name is Kat Honey. I am a collage artist. I think I have to say that now because I used to paint. I used to make signs, but it seems to be collage now. Elaine, thank you for this opportunity to work with so many other amazing artists. When Elaine approached me, I said, I am the least Psi of any of your Psi artists. Are you sure you really want me in this thing? And I don't think I have anything I can really contribute. And so Elaine was having none of that, being Elaine. And she said, well, why don't you do something about being trans? Okay, but I haven't really read very much science fiction. I've got you. Here are some titles you can read. So this piece is a synthesis of those readings and of my desire to be more badass than the wallflower self I was for many years. And what else was in my notes here? And obviously, the times we live in require a defiance of fascism's disdain for trans people. So this is a visual affirmation of the universe, the world, the future that I would like to live in, where everyone is completely free and autonomous to be who they need to be. So that is really as much as there is there. So.
I'm gonna head over to my piece here. Hi everyone. I'm Kai Kan, and thank you, Elaine, so much for inviting me to participate in this project. This is my debut, first time exhibiting as an artist. Thank you so much. So my piece is called Posing for a Fashion Editorial in 2046. So it's inspired by, the fashion and the colors of Blade Runner, but also the Wong Kar-wai movie 2046, set in the 2046. But also with respect to climate change and climate fiction, I'm also thinking about the world, the dystopian world that was happening in, say, Station 11, the novel that I was inspired by. And this piece is about resilience, living in this world. In spite of everything that's happening, there are still aspiring models that want to work. And with the climate change that happened, so there's been a lot of birth defects. And in spite of that, where there's a lot of sort of two-headed humans existing in the space, this one model still wants to, make a living. It's a slice of life living in this post-climate change world. And she want to pose, in spite of the logistical challenges of not being able to breathe the air, seeing the blue acid rain raining down behind her, and she still needs nourishment. So we've sort of learned to develop as human beings to sort of recycle our bodily fluids and live in spite of that. So she and her sister together are putting their best faces forward to live and live their best life, actually. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed, but I think that the best part of it is going to be the Q&A. And so I don't know, I have a lot of questions, but I would like to open up to the audience first, if you have any question. Yeah, of course.
No, I just have a question about the work that has not been described, and if you can describe the other panels that have not been described.
Sure. Two people, of course, couldn't be here. Well, three people. Matt couldn't make it, and Jim Nason is the blue piece there. Jim is a poet and a writer, and this work is also based on a poem he's written called Eulogy, and it's looking at motherhood and his mother specifically, and also growing up gay and not having space and not being accepted in the world that he had grown up in. But he used to think about Star Trek all the time, and he used to watch it, and he used to dream of like beaming up somewhere else. And being able to be someone else and be himself. And that's where he was going with that piece. The piece on the end is Kelly Aiken. Kelly is actually also a writer, a poet, and an artist. And her work comes from a very personal feelings of looking at communication. She was reading a lot of Ursula K. Le Guin, of course, and a number of other artists that has gone out of my head right now, and all these people that are in these bubbles are isolated from each other and can't communicate with each other, but they're trying, and their mouths are open and they're singing. And so there is some way of communication happening. And these are based on all these actual portraits she did of friends and family that she's put under these bubbles. And she's looking at a universe eventually where singing can also be part of a true communication. So that's the other two.
Music of the spheres.
Music of the spheres.
Anybody else who has? Yes.
Hi, first of all, congratulations on such an extraordinary show. I had questions about two works. One was NaCl, that's yours and Tracy's, and the other is Heidi's Shark. So you spoke about all the different planets having used different approaches to... Now, what about the backdrop itself? Is that printed? How did you? I'm curious about that.
I wish we could say we had done that ourselves, but we didn't.
Total cheat.
But that's the serendipity of art. I mean, that's the beauty of it. And yes, I mean, the teeth there, the motif, just extraordinary. And the way, the gold, I mean, it's not just teeth, but then, of course, you've flipped. We live in a world where gold has suddenly become so icky for obvious reasons. But my goodness, the halo is simply wonderful. Did you have a sense of that, or did that happen? Did that evolve through the process?
I should use this. I sort of meditated on the, like literally meditated on the relationship we have with species like sharks, and in one of the prototype pieces I did, I was trying to make the platter out of pulped paper, and ended up using newspaper strips. But one of the prototype platters ended up having a border of torn foil, and then that's when it occurred to me that it looks like a halo. And why can't sharks be holy too? And the title is connected. So we are connected to sharks, they are connected to us. It's all one. So we might as well be holy, and the sharks might as well be holy as well.
My question picks piece up on the shark piece, but I do want to offer it to everyone to play with. And it's that what struck me when you were speaking about the materials you chose to use, in that they were all upcycled in different ways. I'm sorry. And I have to remember your name, sorry. Heidi, thanks, Heidi. What also struck me was the kind of revelation, like the kind of sharing of your intimate life too, because what are the materials you chose? Wine bottle, like corks from wine bottles, and chocolate, you know, all essential to surviving any stressful situation, let alone stress of global scales. And remind me, the third material was cereal boxes. Right, breakfast. Every day should start with breakfast. So for me, it brought your body into the piece as well, and made me think about how our imagination is not only cerebral, it's embodied. And so we imagine, our bodies imagine and feed that creative process. And maybe that was at play for other members of the exhibit, but there's this lovely sort of play of like revelation, you know, revealing and calling in our bodies, I guess, in an exhibit that can feel quite abstract, but it isn't. So I wanted to invite that to anyone to play with as a question. Oops.
Thank you for that insight. It hadn't quite occurred to me that way until you voiced it that way. But yeah, it makes complete sense. All of those items came from my life, yeah, in one way or another, yeah. Yeah, so, I hope to continue doing something like that with other roadkill in the future. But just exploring that in different ways and coming and finding different materials that again, it's a connection, right? Yeah. So did anyone else want to comment on the personal side of things? Embodiment of the cat. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that as artists, we are all alchemists. We often start with very base materials, and by what we imbue them with, whether it's emotion, thought, etc., then that elevates them, right? And I think collage is actually a really good example of that. Like, here's some detritus, and let's turn that into something beautiful and elevated and amazing. So.
Go ahead.
You talked about where what I was hearing was where the maybe the philosophy of the piece came about as part of a person. So in my piece, it's the idea of impermanence. You had kind of the Big Bang, and everything happened at once, but there's also got to be the opposite side where you've got the big collapse. And that series of books kind of went through billions and billions of years. And I eventually, a little spoiler alert, did get to the big collapse. So the idea of impermanence is maybe not today, but give it a few billion years and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Just a couple of things responding to what you asked about mine. A personal insight that grows out of this is a big part of my process for any project is researching and sourcing materials, and including trying out ones that I haven't before. But I'm a magpie, totally a magpie, and our house can attest to that, right? So, yeah. And there are, for a small piece, there are actually many different kinds of materials in it, which is fun for me. It gets me it energizes me when I'm doing the work. And while I'm sourcing the materials, ideas grow from that. And yeah, it's a very strong relationship of, I have a starting point, the hexagons, but then it all sort of develops as I source materials and then think how I can use them, how I can layer them, combine them, whatever. And yeah, so that's the one thing. And the other thing I want to just mention is something that matters to me in this is that this is a very not mechanistic system that's going on in this world here. The hexagons grow. The new materials are in some way organic rather than whatever non-organic is. Even if it looks a little space agey, it's actually the model underlying it is a very different model than what our civilization's grown out of. So, yeah.
Anybody in the audience? Any questions?
I have a question. The planets behind you, when you were creating them, were you drawn or attracted to one planet more than another? Or like perhaps picturing yourself on that planet, and why?
Okay. For me, the one that I favor is the last one that I did. Because after working with Elaine for 6 months on this, I tend to be very methodical. I've made costumes for years, and Elaine is far looser and more experimental in how she creates. So I think that rubbed off on me a little bit. So my favorite one is the one down here, hidden down there. It's got more texture. There was really no planning beyond how are these materials going to work, So I could see myself on that one. Yeah.
It's a beautiful one.
Thank you.
I have a love-hate relationship with the drama queen. She was really hard to bring together. And I don't work soft sculptures very often, and so I had to lean on Tracy a lot of saying, does this look okay? Is this happening? Is this coming together? So it was a labor of love doing it, and it was also a learning experience. I mean, there was my common thing was growing salt on yarn is no problem. You know, I can grow salt on anything. So the salt was quite easy, and I already had that done. But it was bringing it together so that it actually looked like a planet and had a bit of volume and a bit of mass, and that it had some staying power as well, knowing that it was going to be a focal point for the planets. So I'd have to say that's my favorite, and not my favorite. But the other one I really enjoyed doing was the knitting piece. I knitted that piece there, and I really loved incorporating a skirt my mother had made. My mother passed away quite a long time ago, but I still have some of her clothes, which I can't get rid of. Yeah, I'm sure we're all like that. But there was a set of clothes that I thought, you know, I don't mind cutting up part of it in order to incorporate it into the piece. The other thing that's incorporated in that is my sister-in-law, who's been going through a hard time with health issues, and she's a weaver, and she works with sheep's wool, and so the sheep locks are from her that she dyed. And so I wanted to incorporate those and make it more of a family piece. So it's my knitting, my mom, and my sister-in-law. Yeah.
Sure, thanks. So one thing in science that we always have to be mindful of is our bias, but bias is very invisible to us. And so by coming here and looking at your interpretations of science fiction and feminism and things, seeing your interpretation helps me see my bias. And so I would love to hear from anyone on the panel that has anything, just to hear your thoughts on how feminism relates to climate change and or might be part of the solution. Yeah. Sorry. It was.
Oh, that's a big question.
It's kind of a big question. I know. My thought is that, the yin-yang has really been out of balance, and that we live very much in the Western world anyways, in a very male-dominated, society. And and even when we think about, our bodies of knowledge, how that was mostly based on male academics. And so how can adding in the female piece, how can that change, and how could that be part of the solution? This kind of...
Good question. As you say, it's a big one. I'll talk a little about dystopia and utopia, because this piece is utopian. And the novels that I've read and Tracy read for this are utopian feminist novels that come out of the 80s, 70s, 80s, and they're universes where care and differences don't make things have changed in many ways on the politics side, the social side, and as well as the care for the environment. Dystopia has often been coming from a lot of more the male side on science fiction, from my experience, but it has been moving, and there is that possibility of change, especially with, if you look at Kim Stanley Robinson and his work, which was a very big influence for me, because I had just read The Ministry for the Future, where it's an optimistic science fiction,